You're listening to STP Radio.
Welcome back to STP Radio. I'm your host, Mike Lyles, and I'm excited to conduct another interview with one of our sponsors and some upcoming speakers at our fall STPCon conference. In case you've not signed up yet, STPCon will be in Dallas, Texas from September 19th through the 22nd. And if you reach out to me, I can share with you a discount code that'll save you on registration. Be sure to check out www.stpcon.com, where you can learn about the conference, the speakers, our special events, and our conference pricing. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at SoftwareTestPro on both of these. So let's meet our guest. Today we'll be focusing on sessions and workshops that are really related to the Sauce Labs products and folks that work with these tools. Sauce Labs is our platinum sponsor this year, and we have a great panel of guests that are with us today. We have Bill McGee, who is our Director of Marketing at Sauce Labs, Leo Laskin, who is Automation Specialist with Sauce Labs, Kevin Berg, Customer Automation Specialist with Sauce Labs, and Brian Bergnoff with QA Consultants. And I'd like to start with a quick introduction from each of our guests today. So as you're called upon, please let us know a little bit about you, how you got into this role in testing and with Sauce Labs and with QA Consultants, and anything else you'd like to share with us about you. So let's start with Bill.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be here and looking forward to the next conference. I've been with Sauce Labs about 4 years now in a variety of different roles, but really working with the marketing team to build out the community, spread some knowledge in terms of automated testing, Selenium and Appium, and work with a great group of folks.
How about you, Leo?
Yeah, hey, Mike. So I've been with Sauce for about 6 months now. I actually came to Sauce from being a customer of Sauce Labs beforehand, and before that managed to spend, the last 10 years involved in QA, from everything from manual testing to automating things to managing teams all over the world. And it gave me a really unique perspective. So I'm really excited to be able to bring some of that to the keynote at STPCon and to, of course, support Sauce Labs while I'm there.
Thank you so much. And Kevin.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I've been with Sauce Labs for about a year now. I came into the technology sector from a completely different career, and I've really enjoyed the programming aspects and getting to work with people and the variety that creates.
And last but not least, Brian.
Thanks, Mike. I have oddly been a software tester and QA professional for the last 20 years, always in consulting. It has been my entire career. And I'm currently the managing director for our U.S. business for QA Consultants.
Thank you so much, guys. We're glad to have you here. So I want to ask the question that many people may be asking, because we all know Sauce Labs, but we may not know the origin of Sauce Labs. So, Bill, can you tell us the origin of the Sauce Labs name and how that came into play?
Sure. That's actually very interesting, because I've been going through some presentations given by Simon Stewart, the project lead on the Selenium project and the inventor of WebDriver, as he's been talking about the Selenium 3 beta release. And in doing so, he goes back and he talks about the origin of Selenium and how Jason Huggins conceived of the idea when he was working at ThoughtWorks. And Jason, you may have seen him at last year's STPCon, has a terrific and very wry sense of humor. And at the time they were conceiving of Selenium, Mercury Interactive, Mercury was the preeminent automated testing solution. And one of the things that the natural element Selenium does is it cures mercury poisoning. So in a deft and wry competitive jab, Jason decided to name his project Selenium. But with every good name, there's a backronym. And a couple of the things were, should it be Sauce, Selenium on steroids? But at the time, steroids, this is, 8-10 years ago, were not a very popular meme in the sports world. So they conceived of a backronym that was Sauce, Selenium Accelerated Using Cloud Execution.
Oh, wow. Okay. I did not know. So now I've learned something very important, and I'm going to use that tomorrow at work.
Well, for
As
all
I-
you know, I just made all of that up. But
So true. So I think the thing to say here is I've got three what I would call the Sauce Labs brothers. You guys are all working with Sauce Labs, but then I've also got a cousin to Sauce Labs, Brian Bergnoff. And Brian, can you tell us a little bit how you come to partner with Sauce on providing Selenium workshops together and some of the things you've been doing with them?
Yeah, I think it's and thanks for the question. I think the origin of it was really around how we can best continue to build communities in the areas that we serve, and Sauce Labs approached us late last year about putting on a couple of training. We called them training workshops for the QA community, nothing sales related, and it was a real great opportunity to start to build that community beyond just the conferences that come, but also having a real day of hands-on participation. So we went through and did one in June, and when we knew that STP was coming to Dallas, we thought how great it would be to have all of these things come together. So we're really glad to put on the second workshop along with STPCon, Sauce Labs, and QA Consultants.
So Leo, I know you guys are going to be conducting the workshop. The workshop is called Advanced Selenium Best Practices. Can you tell us a little bit about the workshop and what you're hoping to accomplish with the audience there?
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to this workshop. It's going to be our second time doing a similar workshop, but we're going to be providing people with a hands-on chance to show automation and show parallelism all in one place, while also talking about some best practices that can be used in automation, whether you're using Selenium or other tools, in fact, but of course, focus specifically on Selenium.
That sounds great. Kevin, you've got a session called Failproof Tests in Any Browser with Selenium. Can you tell us about that session and what you're going to be doing there?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. So Selenium is known for its flexibility. You can use it in all of the different browsers. And the one thing that I found early on that there's some idiosyncrasies when you're doing that. And with the popularity of cloud-based software as a service providers like Sauce Labs, the desire is then to be able to write a single test that can run across all the browsers. And so what I do in this session is dig into that deeply and talk about ways that you can adapt your tests so that they will run correctly and reliably in any browser that you want to test.
Thank you so much. So, Bill, I know you have toured Italy a lot. I've noticed that about you. I was looking you up on LinkedIn, and also you're a San Francisco Giants fan. But I think the thing that stands out the most to me is, and I'm quoting you, that you participated in the Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon 5 times, which involves jumping off a perfectly good boat and swimming from Alcatraz Island to the city harbor. How was that experience? Was that exhilarating? Was it scary? How did that go for you?
Kind of all of the above. And actually the most memorable, so in open water swimming, one of the cardinal rule is you find something to sight on. And with San Francisco being as foggy as it is, and this event is usually in the summer where you get all of the fog, the most memorable one was when we were getting ready to jump off the boat. You can see the Sutro Tower in the distance, and that's what you're going to sight for. And just as they fired the klaxon or whatever they did to have us jump off, the fog started rolling in, and within minutes, the Sutro Tower had disappeared. So now all of a sudden, and believe me, I was not leading the pack, the only thing I could do was look at the wake of all of the others who were churning up the water like chum, and cross my fingers that I would make it into the St. Francis Yacht Harbor, which I did, because I'm here talking about the story.
That sounds like a perfect testing story. You could turn that into a very good metaphor for how we have to keep up sometimes and follow behind the churn of the development teams and work with those guys.
Well, there's one funny thing where at one point, and it's very cold, and you actually have some very hardy souls who wear nothing but a Speedo like they wear in the Olympics. Me, I'm in a black wetsuit that makes me look like a seal as far as the sharks are concerned. But there are no sharks in the bay anyway. But I remember this one year, a fellow had jumped off the boat, and it was so cold that all he did was swim in a small circle right out. He never got out of his infinite loop. He just kept swimming in a small circle until they finally pulled him out of the water, and he could take a boat ride on the way in.
Well, now that does sound like some of the things we have to do in the testing world for sure, going in circles sometimes. So, Brian, I noticed that you have been in QA your whole career, and I read something from you that it's hardly cubicles and cafeterias, but you're specializing in, and your passion for QA has taken you from abandoned casinos, fighting sand vipers, the grass on Wimbledon, which I'd love to hear about, and 3 of the 7 wonders of the world. So can you start with the casinos and fighting with sand vipers? Tell us how that you relate QA to that.
Yeah, I think it's not relate. It's just the journey that it's taken me. And a lot of times when I address groups of testers, and if you think about it, especially in the outsourcing world that we live in, it's you don't really choose to be in QA all the time. And it's most often that you're chosen to be in QA, even if you wanted to be a developer, let's say, or as some of these consulting companies go. And having been in that world for so long, I've given a lot of speeches to a lot of QA teams, and a lot of them are always around what is your career path and where do you want to go with it. But I'm living proof that you can make a career out of it, and I think the rest of us on the call are as well. Let's see, the abandoned casino. There was a meeting about the future of a certain casino and the technology systems that they wanted to put in place and how we would test it. And it was an RFP type of conversation. And we were sitting in the casino that was about to be torn down and the new one put up. So we were literally at the place there. And let's see. Sand vipers. All I can say there is I was and I am not a military guy, but I was doing not just QA, but also not just functional testing, but we were doing UAT. And this was for UAT for a group of people working to support our military in Djibouti, Africa. And because of the conditions there, they were not allowed to come back to the office for UAT. So we had to go to them. And that required me taking some flights that I would choose not to take again, and living in a tent where you had to put your boots on to do just about anything, and that included being prepared for scorpions and sand vipers. So QA can take you in a variety of directions, and certainly in the consulting world gives you a lot of opportunities if you choose to take them.
I love that story. Leo, tell me about cave diving. I saw you're a scuba diver, but what is cave diving, and tell me about what you're doing there.
Man, cave diving is definitely a passion of mine outside of the quality assurance world, but in some ways it definitely needs my QA acumen to really make me a good cave diver. It's probably one of the most dangerous recreational sporting activities out there. In fact, being a cave diver, it's actually really difficult to get life insurance. So for those of you at home, don't go cave diving if you want life insurance. It's actually diving into underwater caves that are all over the world, and especially in the U.S. They're located typically in the southeast, in the Florida area. And there, when people scuba dive, typically if you have a problem, you can go straight up in the ocean, and most chances are high you'll be okay. But if you're 1,000 feet back in a cave, you have to solve your problems right then and there. And it really is very allegorical to QA, where you're 1,000 steps into a test plan, and all of a sudden some sort of bug comes up, and you need to be able to trace all the way back, whether it's 100 steps or 5 steps or 3 steps. You need to be able to get all the way back to the start, because if you can't figure out what precipitated all the actions that may have happened and have caused the bug to occur that just occurred, you might never be able to really identify it for people who are trying to figure out how to solve it or solve your own problem. And in some cases, especially as Brian just mentioned, working for our military or working in a medical industry or something like that, those kinds of bugs can really be life and death. So really takes me and my mechanical mind back whenever I get in a cave and start diving and thinking about all the possibilities whenever I take a turn.
That is so awesome, because every question's kind of leading to a metaphor. And what I really love about this is that I expect to see either a workshop, a session, or a keynote from you called Cave Diving with Automation or something like that down the road. It sounds like
Maybe
a perfect story.
Maybe next year.
So speaking of keynotes, you've got a keynote, got a great name with it. Anyone Can Cook is the same true for test automation. Can you tell us a little bit about the keynote, what you're going to be sharing with the audience there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited for this keynote. I've actually been working on it for about 9 months now. And it really started with one day I was watching a kid's movie, which you may have seen, called Ratatouille, which is about this rat that learns how to be a Michelin star chef, which is just a hilarious premise. But he learns it all from this cookbook that is, funny enough, called Anyone Can Cook. And the thing is even, the average amateur chef is really frightened to take it up to the next level, to maybe open a restaurant or go cook in a professional kitchen, or even, heck, put on a dinner party for their friends because they're afraid they're going to get judged, or they don't have the knowledge or skills to do it at such a high level. But if you follow some basic steps, really, you can probably put together at least a pretty decent representation of a meal. So I took that and I applied it to QA, and I said, look, there's a lot of manual testers out there right now, and they're really afraid of automation. Automation is this bear in the room because you need to have a college degree. You need to have advanced training. You need to go and immerse yourself in a really, in-depth, months-long, year-long course. And I went and I gave some basic instructions to people that didn't have a lot of QA experience, even to some salespeople. Funny enough, a person on our marketing team at Sauce did the protocol that I put together for us. And with literally no technical background whatsoever, and let's be honest, people who are doing manual QA already have a significant technical background just through their day-to-day work. While they might not know how to program, they know how to read HTML. They've dug into browsers. They've run lots of tests. They've seen lots of technical stuff. So they have a heads up. But people that have no knowledge whatsoever, and I showed how easy it really was to automate your first test. Now, obviously, without giving away the entire story, I will say that everyone's going to be surprised by how little work it really is and how simple automation can really be. So I'm really looking forward to opening some eyes and maybe getting some of those manual testers to say, I really should just start automating and stop wasting my time with manual testing, because obviously being that monkey hitting that button every day, I could probably automate that and save myself a lot of time and effort and probably get a feather in my cap from my bosses at the same time.
Yes, I completely agree. I think there's a lot of people who are a little scared of it. They're afraid of what automation will do, especially if they've not done it. And so I think this is going to be a great opportunity to say, hey, don't be afraid. Take that step, get used to it, get familiar with it. So Kevin, I noticed, and I am a big music fan, whether it's listening to music through the 80s and the 90s or playing the piano since I was 7 years old. And so I have a very close connection with you. And what I've learned about you is that you have a doctorate in music. And you've played professional symphony orchestras for several years. And can you tell us a little bit about that? And if you can give us a relation there with music to a successful IT and QA team.
Sure, thanks. It's always great to talk to another person passionate about music. And from an early age, I found that I had a love of music and pursued that for about 20 years and had a fulfilling career in its own right. And that did include getting a doctorate. Went to college for a lot of years, and that was fun. I think half the people at Soft Labs think it's just a nickname, but that's another story. But that then led to, I really enjoyed teaching. And so I had, at one point I had about 30 private students that I was meeting with weekly, and then also traveled around the country and played in all kinds of symphony orchestras, including 2 years with the Austin Symphony. So no stranger to Texas. So I'm looking forward to getting back there to STPCon. There's so many parallels between music and testing and the exact precision that each require that it really was a logical progression. And also in speaking to Leo's point, anyone can cook. I would consider myself an example that would fall into that regard as well, because I went to one of the 3-month intensives, and by the end of it, I was ready to go and automating tests and helping customers do the same at Sauce Labs. So
perfect. And you said you're no stranger to Texas. I noticed you from the University of Texas at Austin, which
That's
is
right.
also where Brian is a graduate from as
Fantastic.
well. Did you
Hook 'em
guys
horns.
know each other from there?
I don't know that our paths crossed, but it's a shame they didn't.
That's right.
Yeah. So, Bill, I caught some things on the web that you didn't share with me, but I did find, and you wrote an article on either LinkedIn or another area out there in the world of wide web that said web and mobile apps that get UX. It was around November 2015. And I noticed one of your quotes as saying, software is eating the world and every business today is in the software business. Creating and maintaining a great UX is a key branding tool in the 21st century and one that is here to stay. Can you tell us a little bit about that article and what you were trying to share with the audience?
Well, thanks. I mean, it really is. If you think about how much time you spend and the people you know spend, whether it's on their phone or their tablet or their desktop, finding information, booking reservations, looking things up. Every company has now got a new storefront, and it's called the internet. And, you know, when I try and explain to my father and his wife what it is that I do, and they're like, what? It's really gets down to, have you ever been on a website and you're all the way down to the, I want to confirm my purchase, and you're hitting the button and you're hitting the button and it doesn't work. And not that everybody does, but a lot of folks do. It's like, well, okay, let me fire this up in a different browser. All of a sudden you go through the same path and bingo, it works. That kind of lays it out. If you, and for the folks who don't take that path, who don't say, you know, they just throw up their hands and give up and move on to a competitive website, that's money that's been left on the table, and it doesn't have to be. The whole idea is that if you're presenting this storefront, you know, have the inspectors go through it, have them make sure that everything is working, because you want to be as welcoming and as modern as today's consumer is expecting you to be.
So we talk about mobile. Brian, you had a presentation called Why Mobile Testing Strategy is Just a Test Strategy. Why do you think people make them different? Because I have seen people do that, and through the testing conferences I've attended and talked to different testers out in the field, lots of times people will, in the past, and I think you're seeing that change a little bit, the tide changing now, but you've seen people that have really, they segregated those two, and it seems to be we're kind of blending them together now.
Yeah, I think the sheer volume, the devices themselves, and the ubiquity of it all is it scares people, both those new to the profession and those who have been around a long time. The premise of that speech or that talk was around having a complete QA strategy that, especially geared toward consultants, that also includes a mobile test component, because even if you're not testing a specific app per se, the systems that you're testing, if they're consumer facing, they're going to have either a mobile web presence, or even if they're not designed for mobile web, the customers will be bringing them up on their smartphones and on their tablets. So the premise really was around making sure that we're including thoughts like that as part of our overall QA strategies. And I think, to your point, we're starting to see all of that combined just by the nature of consumerism as it is, and the market. Everything is converging. We're looking at tablet first before we do anything else now. And as you all know, we're well beyond phones and tablets when we talk about mobile, right? I think we have refrigerators that are out there now that we need to test, and of course our smart TVs and apps or access to information and the way we do that is changing every day. I
noticed that your company, Brian, is actually providing the data that is being used for the workshop that Leo is doing And can you tell us a little bit how you guys work together and how you got the data that you're using and how that's kind of playing into this workshop?
Yeah, I think Leo approached us as part of, as he already explained, and he's approached a number of other folks internally as well. We pulled together as consultants do and set it up as really not a scientific study, but we set up a number of lunch and learns and pulled together both novice testers, some with a few years of technology or programming experience, and then some that were part of our core automation team, those that were familiar with Selenium and Sauce and variety of other tools and technologies, scripting languages, and so forth. And we had them go out and with no other instructions than the instructions that Leo provided to give him the additional data points, if you will, that he's going to wow us with in September.
Leo, I wanted to ask you one thing. What can Sauce Labs provide that customers can't do with their own internal grids? I think that's a very distinguishing difference, and people need to understand that when they're using Selenium. So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, so a Selenium Grid is a way to have multiple virtual machines or other machines out there that are going to have your test run on them. And you might have multiple browsers on those machines. But one of the things we're able to provide is over 700 different browser and OS combinations that our customers can use to run their test. And that's not even counting mobile. Once we add that in, the number just goes higher and higher and higher. And it's expanding every day as new OSs and new devices come out on a nearly daily basis. The other thing that we also are able to provide is video logs of all of your tests. And you're not going to be able to see that on a regular grid without some significant grunt work. And of course, the ability to not have to maintain your own grid will save significant amounts of money and time, which is very valuable.
Okay. And Kevin, I don't want to leave without mentioning that you're actually going to be conducting a demo, which is something we've started recently in some of our previous STPcons, and having our supporting sponsors and vendors there to show their product and give actually a whole 1 hour session period for demos to be done in a room there for the attendees. And your demo is going to be automated testing made awesome with Sauce Labs. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be sharing with the folks that come to your demo?
Yeah, absolutely. The first part of the demo will just be showing how easy it is to, instead of pointing your Selenium tests to a local endpoint, to point at Sauce Labs. And it's literally just a few lines of code. And then we'll go through and I'll demonstrate, showing these videos and screenshots and everything and all the other test assets that are available through Sauce Labs. By the end of the demonstration, I'll kick off one of my frameworks that will run 100 parallel sessions running 100 Selenium tests simultaneously. Will it work? It'll be exciting to find out.
Well, I'm sure it will. I'm a big fan of Sauce Labs. I've got 60 of them running every day in my company. And this is my third company that I've gone to and taken Sauce Labs with me and introduced it to the companies. And I think Bill especially would probably prefer me to just change jobs every 6 months. I could really help you guys out there. Right, Bill?
That'd be okay. That we can happy to help out. No, you've been a terrific supporter of automated testing, and again, really looking forward to seeing the community coalesce at STPCon this fall.
Yeah, I think our STP attendees are really getting a good feel for what the product does for them, and it's so interesting and exciting to watch new people see it. It's like teaching your kids what a tree is and what the clouds are, and you see it in their face when they say, "Oh, I got this product. This is going to be amazing." And when you share with them what they can do with it, it just really changes their outlook on automated testing.
Well, if I could, let me speak to that for a moment. There's been an interesting dialogue between, truly testing is craftsmanship. And there's this notion, though, that when you're building a house, you're not using an axe to build the foundation. You should be using tools to speed the development of that foundation and the building of that foundation. And there's all sorts of wonderful finishing work that needs to be done, exploratory testing and things that, frankly, you can automate and you can teach computers to do certain things, but they still don't have the ability to think for themselves. And that's why I think that there's truly an opportunity for automated testing to really do all of the grunt work, the foundation building, the base carpentry, but then also an opportunity for testers to go in and really do the fine cabinetry work, the exploratory, and things that a computer's just not going to be able to capture. That
is an excellent analogy, and I think that's something people should really grasp. You need this. It's not a do I do manual or automation. It's I do them both, and you're exactly right. You've got to have them both to be a very successful organization. I love that analogy. I'm going to use it. I'll give you credit, but I think it's a great analogy.
Thank you.
So, guys, all of these workshops and sessions sound so interesting, and I know our attendees are going to love it. They're going to love this program. To me, it's just shaping up to be one of the best, and I've been with STPCon for many years now. Each of you have great things to add, but for this part of the interview, I'd like for you to think about what workshops and sessions and keynotes that you're looking to attend. And I would like to go around the group. Each one of you just share with me one or two things that you're looking to be part of, something you'd like to step into, maybe be part of the workshop session, keynote, whatever. And so I'll start with Leo. What's one of the presentations you're hoping you can be part of?
I'm really looking forward to the roundtable discussions around automation challenges, just to see what challenges people face in their day-to-day world when automating. It's very different depending on what industry you might be in, what company you work for, what your goals are. And I really look forward to hearing what kind of solutions people will come up with, as well as what kind of problems they can't come up with solutions for, and maybe helping them to solve their questions.
That one is always excellent. Very good choice. How about you, Brian?
Well, I think beyond stating the obvious with Leo's keynote and the rest of the SOS team, and then, of course, our workshop, what I really find about these kinds of events is how it brings in other practitioners and maybe those that aren't day-to-day in the trenches testing. And I'm really excited to hear, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher his name, but Miko's speech on the state of the net. I think if you've watched his TED Talks, let's just say it scared me. And it certainly has scared me enough to want to listen to his next one. So I think that's the kind of stuff that really you can get a lot from these conferences around meeting with other testers and QA professionals. But this is something that's a little special as well.
I completely agree there. We just released Miko's interview today. And so if anyone's listening to this and you haven't heard that, definitely check it out as well, because it was a very, very excellent interview. And he is a very knowledgeable guy with a lot of information to share with us. So, Kevin, how about you?
One that really caught my eye, and it's because of kind of an interest I have of how developers and quality engineers kind of interact. And so when I saw folks from Salesforce were putting on a session just about that exact topic, it definitely caught my eye. And having gotten to work with them a little bit on the testing front, I've always been really impressed by their organization. And so really looking forward to hopefully attending the talk that Vladimir and Joyce are going to put on from Salesforce.
Another great choice. I think these Salesforce guys really come prepared with a lot of good information. We have a lot of people show up at their sessions, and you picked a great one. Looking forward to that one as well. Last but not least, Bill, tell us what you're looking forward to.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was DevOps, and I'm really kind of interested in seeing Michael Hackett's workshop on move into DevOps experiences from the real world, because as we talked about the evolution of test in the world of automation and CI and CD, I think that there's a real opportunity for the testing practice to lead this move into DevOps, because it really is the straw that stirs the drink. You've always got to have these environments set up, and you have to have your test bench. And again, that's whether it's Selenium Grid or other options are doing. That is a hard thing to maintain, as Leo has outlined. So I'm looking forward to hearing about experiences from the real world when it comes to DevOps.
That is a great one. And Hackett's workshops are filling up like crazy. We're getting a lot of people signing up for it. So if you're out there and you're thinking about signing up for STPCon and you haven't yet, we have a lot of great workshops. We have a lot of great sessions. As these guys have shared with you, this is going to be one of the best STPcons that I've been part of. And to have Sauce Labs and QA consultants with us, I think it's going to be the best we've had ever. So guys, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much for being part of this interview. And most of all, thank you so much for being a very big, integral part of our program.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thank you.
So if you're sitting at home or listening to this in your car or wherever you are, and you have not signed up for STPCon, I want to ask you, what are you waiting for? These guys are bringing a show to us that we have not had before, and it's going to continue to get better. I'm so excited to have these guys with us. Get out there, sign up. If you reach out to me, I can give you a discount code to get you 15% off of the conference. So let's see you in Dallas in just a couple of weeks. Thanks so much, and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of STP Radio. You can find out more about STPCon coming up in Dallas September 19th through the 22nd by visiting stpcon.com. For more information, discounts, and more STP Radio episodes, follow us on Twitter @SoftwareTestPro.